What's up, Card Family? Sorry about that. It just so happens the guy I'm getting ready to make a response video is messaging me on my phone and like messing with my screen, but oh well. So I want to do a response video for Dustin Abraham, Dustin and Blake. How many subs did you hit? 500? Pretty awesome, dude. I tell you, Dustin's a good dude. I know a lot more about him than probably a lot of people on here, and that's just what I want to tell you is that's a solid dude right there. And he is a beast of a TTM collector, and I wanted to kind of add that in my goals video. That it's always one of my on my wish list is to start TTMs, and at some point I want to get one out. I think I'm going to start with Eric Dickerson, but anyhow, enough rambling. Dustin wanted us to name 4 athletes that we would put on our Mount Rushmore. I think it's regardless of sport, regardless of position, regardless of era. And I haven't watched many of the video responses, but I think that there's probably a lot of the same names popping up, and I think a couple of mine are probably going to be the same too, because there's certain players that, you know, you can't leave them out. And so let's go ahead and get one of them out of the way. Babe Ruth. I think I've done Babe Ruth before, and I've gotten into like his statistics and the amount of home runs that he hit in the era that he played. But when compared to players of his era, you know, hands down, he's the most dominant player of his sport in any sport in any era. That's just facts. And then you throw in his pitching dominance, you know, and that just makes it even more absurd. And then you put him on the Yankees and all the world championships and the dominance of the team itself. Babe Ruth, to me, is probably the GOAT athlete of all time. I just don't see how you top him. And, you know, household name, everybody knows his name. My wife knows nothing about sports. If you said the name Babe Ruth, she'd know he's a baseball player from a long time ago. So Babe Ruth, number 1 on the Mount Rushmore. Second, another one that I've talked about quite a bit. I think he is the GOAT of professional basketball, the greatest NBA player of all time. Again, I think it's hands down. LeBron, to me, is in the conversation, but no. You're not in Michael Jordan's stratosphere. 6-time NBA champion, 6-time NBA Finals MVP. Just a cultural icon. You have to put Jordan on there. I could go on with and argue statistics and all this stuff, but I'm not. I've done it before. I've made a damn video about this, just this. But so Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan. Third, here's one I don't know if everybody named. I know I saw some people say Barry Sanders. You know, or maybe somebody will say a quarterback. But here's my thing with quarterbacks. You know, there's always a debate. Who's the GOAT? Who's the greatest quarterback? Tom Brady, Joe Montana? Is it going to be Peyton Manning, Pat Mahomes? You know, there's a debate. There is a debate. Same thing with running back. You know, oh, well, Emmitt Smith is the all-time yards leader, but people think Barry Sanders was the greatest. And then you've got your Walter Payton, your Jim Brown enthusiasts. There's an argument. There can be an argument made. There's one position where it is no contest in the NFL, and that's wide receiver. Jerry Rice is without a doubt the greatest wide receiver ever to play in the National Football League. His statistics say it. His the eye test says it. His on the field says it. Hands down, Jerry Rice has more receptions, more receiving yards, more receiving touchdowns by a wide margin than anyone. Now, you can also talk, and I believe Jerry Rice is the greatest of all time in any position in the NFL. More scrimmage yards than any player in NFL history. More offensive touchdowns, scrimmage touchdowns, than any player in NFL history. The championships, he played with the 49ers. What is that, five NFL championship, 5 Super Bowl trophies, I think, for Rice. At 40 years old, Rice had 1,200 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. 40! For those of y'all, there's a few of us that are in our 40s, recently turned 40. This guy was your age in the NFL, and he was over 1,000 yards receiving. Zay Jones can't do that. He's 20-something years old. Incredible work ethic, athlete. In my opinion, the GOAT, all-time NFL history, Jerry Rice. Last, I'm going to throw in a wild card, and I'm going to throw in a coach. And I know no one will agree with this, but it's my list, and I think Dustin wants to hear some unique takes. So I'm going to throw in Tom Landry. And here's why. So I know you said athlete. So Tom Landry did play defensive back in the NFL, and he was a good defensive back. He was known to be much smarter than he was athletic or fast. So smart that he eventually became a player coach. And eventually, Tom Landry and Vince Lombardi coached together for the New York Giants. They won championships in New York. Landry ran the defense. Lombardi ran the offense. When they split ways, Lombardi kept Landry's defense. So Tom Landry invented the 4-3 defense, the standard bearer even still today. The majority of teams play a base 4-3. Yeah, there's 3-4, there's some exotic looks, Tampa 2, all that. Most of these are still a 4-3 look. But Tom Landry invented that. He invented the 4-3 flex defense, which no one really copied. But what I'm getting at is Tom Landry was ahead of his time. There's more. The motion offenses that you see today. Omaha, Peyton Manning at the line of scrimmage, moving guys around. I know he's retired, but you see that teams come to the line of scrimmage, and the way they initially lined up, that's not how they're going to finish. They do that so defenses have to make calls on the fly, and they get defenders out of position, and they get mismatches. Tom Landry was the first to ever do that. Tom Landry created the motion offense. If you go back and watch tape of the Cowboys in the 70s and 80s, you'll see before every play, the offensive linemen stand up. When they stand up, all the backs and receivers go in motion and move. That was meant to distract the defense a little bit and disguise the movements. Landry was the first to do this. Shotgun. How many teams run primarily probably 80% of their offense now from the shotgun? Landry was the first to run the shotgun formation. There was a time when the Cowboys were one of the only teams running shotgun formation. Roger Staubach in the shotgun is a picture of the 70s, but it is not a picture of the 70s Cowboys, but it is not a picture of the 70s. That was a Tom Landry innovation. Tom Landry changed the game of football, and he was 32 to 40 years ahead of his time. I know people like to give Bill Walsh credit for creating the modern offense. Tom Landry was the precursor to Bill Walsh. Last thing I'll say about Landry is scouting, biometrics, numbers, all the stuff you see in the combine. Tom Landry started that. The Cowboys were the first to, rather than the Cowboys might not necessarily draft the best guy in the draft. They draft the guy with the best numbers, with the best vertical, the best bench press reps, all of that. Landry started that. And I think he's largely forgotten because he's the man in the hat. He had, very, you never saw him smile. He never got excited. The Cowboys were robotic. All of that stuff. Landry was ahead of his time and revolutionized the game that we all love. And made it into, was a huge part of turning the game into, the game that we do love now. Not to say that we wouldn't have loved 3 yards in a cloud of dust in the 40s. Some of us probably would have embraced that. Tom Landry changed the game. Anyhow, that's all I got. That's my Mount Rushmore. And you think about these chiseled faces on that piece of rock. Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan, Jerry Rice, and then how good would Tom Landry fit on there with the hat? That would be just a beautiful, beautiful piece of rock. And, if I was artistic, I would carve that out myself. Congrats, Dustin and Blake, on the subs. Well-deserved. Car family for life. Family's been really popping lately, really enjoying everything. A lot going on. A lot of giveaways. A lot of care packages going out after Christmas love, before Christmas love. Family is awesome, man. Y'all keep it real. I'm out.